Just listen to those words for a second. This is not a natural disaster. This is systemic murder. That's from a Hong Kong firefighter right there on the scene. It's not just a statement, it's an accusation, and it sets the stage for everything we're about to unpack.
So what happened in that tower wasn't just a fire, it was a full-blown catastrophe, one that left an entire city asking some incredibly difficult questions. All right, let's get into it and figure out how one single spark managed to ignite a city's fury.
The first thing you need to know is the number. 128. That's the confirmed death toll. It's a staggering figure that represents an unimaginable loss of life, of entire families just gone.
So the big question is, how? How did it get so bad, so incredibly fast? This wasn't just bad luck. It was a perfect storm, a chain reaction of failures that turned a regular apartment building into an absolute death trap. To understand what happened, we have to look at the mechanics of the disaster itself. So, to figure this out, we've got to start with the physics of it. Something allowed these flames to basically defy gravity, scaling 31 stories in just a matter of minutes. It sounds impossible, right? Well, the answer has a name, the chimney effect. And it's a terrifyingly simple concept. All you have to do is imagine a narrow gap between the building's wall and all the construction material on the outside. Well, that gap acts like a giant chimney. All that intense heat and flame gets trapped in there with nowhere to go but straight up. It creates this superheated blowtorch that just shoots right up the side of the building.
And here's how that deadly process played out. A fire starts down at the bottom. The heat immediately gets trapped in that narrow channel created by the construction netting. This funnels the flames into a vertical inferno, consuming the building from the outside in. And it doesn't stop there. When the fire hits the top, it just erupts, raining down burning embers and spreading the disaster to the buildings next door. A complete nightmare.
Of course, the chimney effect needs fuel. A lot of it. And that brings us to the next critical piece of the puzzle, the materials themselves.
So you had two main suspects. On one side, the traditional bamboo scaffolding. It's a Hong Kong icon, and some officials were really quick to point the finger there. But on the other side, you had the modern stuff, the green protective netting, and the foam boards covering the windows. And here's the kicker. After the fire was out, huge sections of the bamboo scaffolding were still standing. Charred, yeah, but intact. The netting and the foam, though, they were just gone. Yeah, it became pretty obvious pretty fast what the real culprits were. That green netting was supposed to be flame retardant. It wasn't. It was a direct violation of building codes, and it went up like gasoline. And the foam boards, they didn't just add more fuel to the fire, they physically blocked escape routes, trapping people inside. When you put those together, you get what experts call a three-dimensional burn. That means the fire wasn't just spreading up the building, it was burning across its entire face all at once.
And if you need any more proof that blaming the bamboo was, well, a misdirection, get this. A state media program once claimed that in the area of an atomic bomb test, the only thing that survived was the bamboo. I mean, if they can withstand that, how could it possibly be the main culprit here? It just doesn't add up.
And this is where the story takes an even more disturbing turn. If these materials were so obviously dangerous and against the rules, how did they ever end up on a 31-story residential building in the first place? This isn't just about the materials anymore. This is about the system that put them there.
So, was this tragedy really just about the wrong kind of plastic? Or does it point to something much deeper? A rot in the very systems that are supposed to exist to keep people safe? And here we are back with that firefighter. His grief wasn't just about the fire. It was this feeling of being completely powerless. He and his team could risk their own lives, but they were fighting a battle that was lost before it even started. Lost because the system of regulation and oversight had already completely collapsed. And I mean, just look at this list. It's a total cascade of failures. The contractor in charge had a history of over 140 safety violations, and they still got the contract. The building's fire alarms, the most basic line of defense, were silent. They never went off. Official inspections. Somebody came by just a week before the fire and apparently saw nothing wrong. And worst of all, residents were literally sealed into their apartments by these foam boards, unable to see or escape. Every single safeguard failed. So, after a systemic collapse that complete, what's left? After the fire is out and the true scale of the loss becomes clear, well, that's when you see the human cost and the community's powerful response.
These numbers are just staggering. We know 128 people died, but the fire was so intense that only around 30 victims could even be identified. That massive gap between the number of dead and the number of people who could be named, it tells you everything you need to know about the horror inside that building. It's a loss so complete, it erased identities.
And yet, out of those ashes came this incredible display of solidarity. People in Hong Kong revived the Lion Rock spirit. Now this is important. This isn't just about donating supplies. This spirit has deep historical roots. It's the symbol of unity for when people feel like they have to stand together to confront official failure and demand accountability. It's a response born from a deep-seated belief that the system had failed them.
And that leaves us with this final, haunting question. This fire started with a spark, but it was fueled by flammable materials and a system of broken regulations. So, when a first responder calls it systemic murder, it forces us all to ask, where does the responsibility truly lie? It's not about a single contractor or a faulty alarm anymore. It's about the very trust between a people and those who are meant to protect them. A trust that now lies in ashes.